The Big E Sports Show.
Yeah, we got it going on.
The fastest hour in sports entertainment. We don't just talk about the headlines. We bring you some of the most engaging and colorful guests each and every episode for your listening pleasure. Now, without further ado, here's your host, Elissa Walker-Campbell.
Elissa Walker-Campbell, I want to welcome you back to the Big E Sports Show, and always an honor to have the opportunity to visit with a true legend of the game, and that is the great Del Harris. With over 50 years of experience in the NBA as a coach, executive, and mentor, his impact on the game of basketball is profound. He led teams like the Lakers, the Bucks, and the Rockets to his current involvement with the Dallas Mavericks and long-standing relationship and friendship with Spud Webb. We've got a lot of memories and always a true pleasure when we have the opportunity to catch up with the great Del Harris. How are you, Del?
Well, I'm hanging in pretty well, I guess, for an old guy. Thanks for asking.
Well, we're so excited to have you on the program, and already some really big NBA news we just heard about, that Greg Popovich is going to step away. And so let's just talk about the culture that he created in San Antonio and just the impact that he has had in the league. And I understand both of you guys, you're Indiana boys, right?
That's true. We're both in the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame
Yes,
as well
sir.
as the Naismith Hall of Fame. So that's, something that we share. And, of course, we spent a lot of time in Texas as well, each of us.
Well, how do you think Greg Popovich will be remembered if this indeed is the end of an era? When we think about not just the championships, but just what he built in San Antonio.
Well, he's going to be, obviously, for a reasonable future, a standard for greatness in the game and being able to sustain. He and Jerry Sloan, I think, are two guys that were not only great coaches, Hall of Fame coaches as well, but who had incredible sustainability in a business that is not known for any length of career in any singular place. But these two guys managed to stay with one franchise for decades. And just recently we've had teams change the coaches in the last month of the season, two of them.
Yeah.
So, and it's a whole circus at some of these franchises. But Pop just fit San Antonio and was tremendously blessed with being able to start in his first year with two of the all-time greats in basketball and who were all-time great human beings in David Robinson and Timmy. So he was able to stay with Tim even through Tim's retirement. One time, Pop told Nellie and me, Nellie and Pop were close because Pop had worked for Nellie originally in Golden State after having coached small college basketball out there and in California. And so Pop, one time, he was going to stay as long as Duncan was playing, and then he probably let it go after that. But he didn't. But anyway, he was able to continue on, and he would have really, I'm sure, loved to have had more time with the new big fellow that they have there in San Antonio now, but it's not to be. But he had a wonderful career.
He certainly did. We just think about his coaching philosophy, player development, and mentoring this next generation of coaches, a championship coach, a winner when we talk about Greg Popovich. But, while we have you on the show, you have spent, I say, 50 years in the introduction in terms of your experience in the NBA, but really 8 decades in professional basketball. So, Del, as you have time to reflect over your just incredible career and journey in the NBA, how would you summarize that? And I should say, you're still involved, the VP, with the Texas Legends right there in Frisco.
Oh, goodness. And let me come back to that, but let me say a little story about Pop in honor of your topic of the day anyway there with Pop. As I said, he and Nellie were very good friends. And so we, of course, had some huge conflicts when I was with Dallas. We also had good warfare when I was with the Lakers, and Bob was there at San Antonio. But anyway, we had already, at this point of my story, had, I think, one 7-game series with San Antonio, and this was probably our second encounter. And so before we were opening there, San Antonio had a little bit better record than we had. And so before we even played the first game, Pop said to Nellie, he said, "No, no matter who wins, you guys are coming to my house, and we're having dinner, and we're just going to spend some time." And so we agreed, we would do that. So, and I can't even remember now if we won that one or lost. That's not the point. It didn't matter whether we won or lost or there was this or that. We were going to get together, and we did. And I mean, he put on a really great feast, and there were just the three of us, and his wife was there, but she was, almost invisible by intent and on her behalf because they were close. Anyway, he had up in the hill behind his house, he had a wine cellar, the stones of which he had imported from Italy even. And in that, it was a wine tasting place. It had the big table in the middle and chairs around it, and had all these bottles of wine and stuff. And he broke open a 200-year Madeira wine. Oh, wow. He had bought 5 bottles of it. He had 4 left, and he broke this one off open for a special occasion. And we had that 200-year-old wine. After that, we had the big dinner that he had catered in. Really nice stuff. Yeah. And at the end, he had 2 or 3 different wines to taste. And one was a Madeira that was only like 10 or 15 or whatever years old it was. But we were able to, have this taste of wine, that spanned 200 years. And, it's just something I'll never forget. Yeah, we're celebrating the great Greg Popovich. His retirement has been announced, and we're going one-on-one with legendary coach, and that is Del Harris. And of course, you're someone that has been deeply connected to the Dallas Mavericks history. And we've got to ask you while we have you on the program, I mean, what was your initial reaction to the trade sending Luka Doncic to the Lakers in exchange for Anthony Davis? I got to tee you up. Come on, Del. Well, it was the same as everybody else's. I'm telling you, nobody's quite figured it out or recovered, back and forth on it. It was a tough blow to Dallas. The whole community, they had named kids and dogs and horses after Luka. So, and I love Anthony Davis. I've known him since he was 18. He played for my good friend Calipari, and I was there the day he and his parents visited before they even signed up, and followed him since. I broadcast in studio the games that he played for the New Orleans Pelicans, those 5 years, whatever it was, 6 maybe. So, but to make a trade, one great for another great, in that sense makes some kind of reasoning for it. But when one's 32 with 13 years in the league on him already, and then one with only 5 years in the league and 24 or 5, whatever Luka is, didn't make a lot of sense in the short run or the long run.
Yeah, there certainly was an emotional response from the fan base, and the trade really did spark a significant backlash among Dallas Maverick fans. But let's move ahead. I mean, here, Dell, the 2025 NBA playoffs are underway, and let's talk about your former team. Of course, you were named the NBA Coach of the Year in 1995, and the Los Angeles Lakers, they were eliminated in the first round by the Timberwolves in 5 games. What do you think was the primary factors behind this early exit?
Well, it's not the first time that LeBron had an early exit. So, I think it's the 5th time, which is fine. You make the playoffs virtually every year, and you win 5 of them. You're going to lose some of them. So that, is not so bad. I know when I went there to the Lakers the year before, they had been in the lottery. So they'll recover. They're the Lakers. They'll find a way because Luka will really get ready for next year, and they'll try to make some kind of move for sure, and be interesting to see what LeBron does. But anyway, I want to give a whole lot of credit to Minnesota. Those guys really played well. And I was glad to see Rick Adelman's son, who stepped in there, as one of the places that they made a coaching change that we referred to earlier. And glad to see Rick, who was a Hall of Fame coach as well, do some good. I'm sympathetic to families being involved in things. My son Larry is the assistant GM of the Warriors and been with them 17 years. And of course, Nellie's son, Donnie, was a big factor in the recent Mavericks history and so forth as well. So anyway, LA will recover. You can be sure of that.
Well, you had mentioned LeBron James, and at 40 years old, he still shouldered a major load. So what does the future look like for him and just for the franchise? I mean, are you optimistic?
You can never really bet against LeBron, and to do what he did was amazing. To me, he was a victim of small ball. The small ball concept is fading. It was really popularized. Actually, Nelly years ago had a really good small ball in Golden State with the Mullins and Hardaway and Richmond. Various teams have played small ball from time to time. We had one year of a lot of smaller ball here when we were together. What really popularized it, though, recently has been the success of the Warriors, and they won their championships in a row and dominated an era of 5 or 6 years there. But it's the game moving forward now is going back a little bit more to the importance of the big man as well, as opposed to just shooting the 3 ball off of pick and roll, or 3 ball off of some ball handler's penetration that he dribbles around for 4 or 5, 10 dribbles, and then either shoots it or throws it out to the rest of the guys that are standing out there like birds in a nest waiting for mom to drop a worm on them. And so Minnesota is very active, and they move the ball a lot, and very active big man.
Yeah, Dell, so what's driving the change? Because, for the past decade, small ball really revolutionized the NBA with the lineups with pace and space and versatility. But it seems like teams are leaning back into size and interior presence like you're talking about.
Well, what happened is, for example, when you lose your big men, look what happened to the Lakers. They had to go small ball, and they couldn't beat the bigger team. And overall, their big men were able to take over with the rebounding, defending, and lob ball. And everybody needs to have a lob guy now, and need to have a goaltender. The Mavericks were good as long as their two bigs were good, but they both went down. And so then they couldn't win with small ball this year. And even with AD, Anthony Davis, he only played a little bit and got hurt again. And so, but there will always be the room for the good big man. If somehow or another we could go back in time and you had players like Shaq and Kareem and Hakeem and all the great big men, you think they wouldn't, be the center of attention again? They would be. And so you have the big fellow at Wembanyama at the Spurs that's going to revolutionize it. Each team now is looking for 7-footers that can play. Another 7-footer, of course, dominates the game today is Jokic. And they are able not only to protect the rim a little bit and post up, but lo and behold, they've learned to make the three ball as well.
Right.
Now, would you rather have a guy that shoots the three that's 6'2" and dribbles around a lot, or unless it's Steph Curry, you probably would rather have a guy that's 7 feet tall that can rebound, block shots, and still step out and make a three where you actually have to guard him. So there'll always be a room for a big man. You just need to have a coach that knows how to coach it.
Well, you have seen generations of players come through the league. Just how have player personalities and work ethics, how have they evolved over time? Have they regressed or have they gotten better?
Oh, boy, that's a long story there. I'm not sure our overall culture has gotten any better. So it's just difficult to say. They have so much more advantages now than when we started. This year is you mentioned, is my 50th year to be connected with the NBA. And before that, I was with the ABA and then overseas and stuff. So in the earlier days, everything was commercial travel. We only had, and for my first 10 years, we only had 2 coaches and a trainer and the players. And then there was the front office people. There were, when I worked with the Rockets, we had, depending on the year, 13 to 15 people that were working that were not the players. That counted the trainer, the GM, the coach, the secretary even. It counted the ticket guy, the comptroller. And the same when I went to the Bucks. Now it changed while I was at the Bucks, and but now the teams employ as many as 250 people, and in a minimum of 125 or 150 people. They've got everything that you can have for players. I never coached a team that had their own practice site. We had to move around here or there, colleges, high schools, YMCAs, to have practices. Even with the Lakers, they never had one while I was there. They got it the year after I left. And so now they have these really nice training facilities. San Antonio was one of the early ones. That was Pop and, of course, R.C. Buford that, made that happen, along, of course, with the ownership. The ownership hasn't coached them, they can do it. So we don't, they make enough now, I guess they could. We didn't make any money then, but in any event, they're catered to so much now. And we used to play a lot of games back to back to back. And now they don't want to play back to back. In fact, the last 3 games I ever coached in the NBA were back to back to back at the Lakers in the lockout year. But in 80-81, when we went to the finals with Moses Malone at the Rockets and his great teammates, we played 6 times during that season, back to back to back, and we're staying in just the lesser hotels. We're never in anything like Four Seasons and Ritz like they do now.
Oh, yeah.
And we were flying commercial. You had to get up after you won, say, on Tuesday night. You had to get a 6, 7 o'clock flight to the next city. And then you played that game. And then the next day, you had to catch the next flight, hopefully to home. But if not, it's to the next place. But anyway, that 6 times. And Moses played 81 games, averaged 42 minutes. And he was mad at me every time I took him out.
Wow. That says a lot. Well, listen, you have coached certainly some legendary teams. You're talking about the Rockets, the Bucks, or the Lakers. But as we close out our interview, I wanted you to reflect on your time with the Dallas Mavericks. You're still obviously involved with the Texas Legends, a part of the Dallas Mavericks organization. But what do you appreciate the most just about your experience, whether it was the leadership, the players, or just the culture within the franchise? I know that, Del, it's very close to your heart.
We have stayed here because we love the area. It's the Bible Belt, which we appreciate, and
yes.
It's so the life here is good. The weather, we like that. It's in between Houston and Indianapolis. So anyway, but we've just had some great players in terms of not only their abilities, but their character. Everybody knows, of course, Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash, Michael Finley, and Jason Terry, and on through so many great people and players that we had. And I'm quite proud of the 7 years that I was assistant coach for the team with Nellie and then with Avery, that we averaged 58 and a half wins in 7 years and had the only 60-win teams they've ever had. We had 3 of them, 60, 61, and 67 games. And it's very difficult to get 60. We did it my final year full year at the Lakers. But to put that in perspective, the Lakers have only had 3 60-win teams in the last 35 years. Prior to that, in the 80s, they had 60-win teams about, 3 or 4 times that decade. That's how good the Lakers were at that point.
You mentioned Dirk. I have to just wonder, too, has there ever been anyone that has worked harder in the game of basketball than him? I mean, what was it like, your time, spending time around Dirk Nowitzki?
Well, he's great. He's just a fantastic, caring sort of human being, and does a lot of things that go unknown and unreported that are good. And he was so tough. And so many times I saw him go down with that sprained ankle, and I know how those are. I've sprained mine so much, I've had to have a full ankle replacement. Most players would, when they went down with an ankle turn, you'd get them into the locker room, and that'd be the last you'd see of them for 2 weeks to a month. With him, if it was in the first half, he was out there in the second half. And I saw him one time get a tooth knocked loose. He threw it over to the bench, spit it out, threw it over to the bench, and just kept playing. That's how tough he was.
Wow. Hey, we are winding down our time with the great Del Harris. The 2025 NBA playoffs are underway. My final question for you is, who's going to win it all this year, Del?
I tell you, I just don't know. It's been terrific, even though I do tend to prefer just the overall team game as opposed to coming down and trying to run as many pick and rolls and get as many three balls up in the air as you can. I'd rather see the ball move and all the players get involved and have some good cuts and screens. And you see some of it. You see it more with Boston and Oklahoma City than you do some of the other teams. But I thought, Detroit and New York, they had an exciting series. We'll just see. I don't know, but it's that balanced. But you have really some tremendous individual players and have some outstanding teams. And these games have been going down to the wire. And I really like seeing those. That's what I like to do, is watch the last 3 minutes. I record every game, but
do you really? Okay.
Yeah, most of them I just look, and unless certain circumstances, I'll look at more of the game, and which I do, but not every one, obviously. But I like to see how the coaches and players respond to the last 3 minutes, because to me that was game time. And that was how you evaluated really a lot of the coaches and the players. Having said that, I think Pop and Nelly were two of the best. I learned from both of them. I thought I got fairly handy at it over the years. I spent 8 or 9 years with Nelly, so he was the best at the end of games. But it's interesting to see which coaches are better than others. And of course, you don't know what the players, if they ran the right cut that was called for or whatever, but nonetheless, I like to see those closing moments.
Yeah. Always a true pleasure when we have the opportunity to catch up with the great Dale Harris, over 50 years of experience in the NBA as a coach, executive, and mentor. You've had a profound impact on the game of basketball. We appreciate you carving out some time, and we look forward to another conversation, and enjoy the playoffs, Dale, okay?
Okay, well, thank you, Elissa, and best wishes to you and to your golf playing sons.
Thank you so much. Blessings to you, Dale. We'll talk soon, okay?
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.